For this hearing and support the aggressive investigation. Mr. Chairman, you're known to be aggressive, you're known to be persistent, and those are qualities that are going to serve us well in this effort. There's really two issues. The first that's vitally important is, has the principle of equal protection and equal enforcement of the law been violated? And the second question is whether First Amendment rights have been infringed. Those are the focus of this hearing. And I support the aggressive efforts of this committee led by our chairman and ranking member to A, determine the facts, and B, follow the facts wherever they lead. America deserves an answer. And the fundamental question here is whether or not, at the end of this investigation, the conclusion is this was poor judgment and mismanagement, or were these actions politically directed and politically motivated by politically powerful people? That's our oversight function, and you're pursuing that, as you've said, aggressively, and we support that, both of you. But there is an oversight function, as Mr. Cummings said, and the oversight question asks us the question as to what is going on in the campaign finance world that we all live in. It also raises the question as to whether or not America's institutions are failing the American people that they serve. This was a failure by the IRS, whichever conclusion the facts lead us to. Just the conduct that raises legitimate questions as to whether or not there's been selective enforcement and politically motivated action compromises the ability of that institution, the Internal Revenue Service, to have credibility to do the job that the law requires it to do. But this mess goes back to a decision by the United States Supreme Court in Citizens United. In that case, in my view, the Court made what I think is an absurd decision. They said a corporation is a person. Now, corporations have rights, and they should be protected. Corporations serve a very important function in our economy, and those should be promoted. But a person like you or like me, that's just nutty. You know, when it comes to this question of personhood, Mr. Chairman, and I'm talking about this because of our oversight function where I hope we do find some common ground, the Supreme Court gets it wrong. In 1857, in the Dred Scott decision, the Supreme Court said an African American was not a person. That is a stain on the court. It's a stain on our history. That was corrected by this Congress in 1868 with the 14th Amendment. And one of the challenges we face as a Congress is whether or not we're going to acknowledge what has happened in campaign finance since Citizens United. And let me just give a few facts, because this is really, I think, in my view, a threat to the access to democracy by everyday people. Last presidential election, our candidate spent $1.1 billion between what he raised and what outside groups
put a B on that one, if you would. Billion, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And the Republican candidate spent about the same. And, you know, in the quaint old days when President Clinton ran for his first race, he spent about $42 million, that's an M, and Mr. Dole spent about $44 million. In the congressional races that we have all been engaged in, the House races were $1.1 billion. And the Massachusetts Senate race, $82 million. A House race in Florida, $23 million. And what has happened with all of this money coming into the political process, and I think we've all experienced this because I've talked to my colleagues, there's more 30-second attack ads. They do nothing to elevate the debate or explain the sharp divisions we have on a legitimate issue of taxing and spending. There's less control that each of us as a candidate have over what it is we're promoting to the people we're trying to represent, because outside groups are starting to spend more than the individual candidate does. There's more despair by citizens that we all represent that this political system has anything to do with anything they care about. And this is something I've noticed as a member of Congress. There's less ability for us to try to find common ground and make compromises that are in the public interest, because some loopy billionaire on your side or ours can flood the airwaves with an avalanche of cash criticizing us because we actually dare to make some compromises. So this campaign finance system, in my view, Mr. Chairman, is in dire need of reform. So, yes, let's get to the bottom of this situation, but let's also acknowledge that this money that is coming into the political system is a very threat to our ability of this institution to do the job that the people expect it to do and the Constitution requires us to do. I yield back.
I thank the gentleman. We now go